Welcome to WarrenAlford.com. I'm glad you're here. This is your source for quality management information. Control charts are effective tools to analyze variation in a process. They are line graphs that display a dynamic picture of the process behavior. A process which is under statistical control is characterized by points that do not exceed an upper control limit or a lower control limit, which is a UCL or LCL. So they remain right around that process average, and they do not go above UCL or below the LCL. Again, it's a good way to chart the process and make sure that it is in control. The control chart has some advantages, obviously. It provides a visual display of process performance. It's statistically sound. You can't argue with the number. They can plot both attributes and variables, two different ways to look at it. They can detect special and assignable behavior causes like trends or cycles that may appear. They indicate the time that things are going either good or bad, so you can narrow it down in a chronological order. You can also look at it on a timetable, in a time frame. You can begin to narrow it down to this particular instance happens at 11 o'clock p.m. every night at this facility for 5 minutes. So it's a real good way to take a fast look and get the information. Variables charts can also provide an ongoing measure of process capability. How capable is that process? And they can be used to determine if process improvements are effective. Again, if you look at a control chart before you implement a change to the process and then you look at it afterward, and you see that afterward it is exceeding the upper or the lower control limit, that may be a special cause, or it may be that your idea for changing this process is not working. However, it does have some disadvantages. First of all, it requires mathematical calculation, and they can provide misleading information for a variety of reasons. The sample frequency can be inappropriate. It can also be miscalculated. Just a slight mathematical error or a slight interpretation error can cause all the information to be null and void. The assumed population distribution can be wrong, like in variable data, or they can have differing standard interpretations, like attribute data. The Barreto diagram is a specialized form of column graph. It's used to prioritize problems. It can help teams get a clear picture of where the greatest contribution can be made. Just briefly stated, the principles suggest in most situations, a few problems, about 20%, will present the most opportunity for improvement, approximately 80%. So it's the 80-20 rule. And these diagrams are used to analyze a problem from a new perspective, to focus attention on problems in priority order, compare data changes during different time periods, and provide a basis for the construction of cumulative line. First things first. And again, they're easy to read, they're easy to look at. They're very good for management presentations because you can show these, and as long as you have verified your information and you have built your columns correctly, you can show the most serious problems all the way down to the least serious. You can also build in a cumulative line as well, which will show a trend. Then there's also the scatter diagram, and it's a graphic display of many data points, which represents a relationship between two different variables. It's also referred to as a correlation chart. For example, temperature changes cause contraction and expansion of many materials. Both time and temperature will affect moisture in wood, for example. Examples of such relationships are abundant. Knowledge of these relationships often provides a clue to the solution of the problem. The scatter diagram can help determine if a relationship exists and how to control the effect of the relationship on the process. If you start to see where those points are converging and coming closer together, you can have a high positive diagram, you can have a high negative diagram, a low positive, and no correlation, which is where all the data points are scattered everywhere. The dependent variable can be controlled if a relationship is understood. Correlation originates from a cause-effect relationship. They have a relationship together. Relationship between one cause and another cause, or a relationship between one cause and two other causes, so it's a common denominator. Not all scatter diagrams reveal linear relationships. There is an entire domain of analysis to develop algebraic equations, which represent lines and curves and all these type things. But if you just keep it simple and just plot the points, you can get a good visual representation of how these points relate to one another. Keeping in mind, you must make sure that your x and your y axis are correct, and make sure that your numbers are correct and your calculations are correct, and then just simply plot them in and you can get a real good look.